packaged food companies should shut down. Packaged food as an industry have been telling us half-truth. Our mission is to rebuild the world's trust in its food. That's why if half-truths are the problem, then the whole truth has to be the solution.
So these half-truths that you're talking about, Shashank, did you encounter them in your first big job?
They're saying no added sugar, but it has a ton of sugar in it. Replaced my cola with a healthy fruit juice, only to find out it has the exact same amount of sugar as my cola.
How your own personal journey has led to the creation of this idea.
Yeah, I was a super fat, obese kid and I lost weight. In 3 years, 30 kgs came back.
How many times a day would you have your own products?
Oh, at least 2.
Any of your products, would you say a meal replacement?
If you have 1.5 protein bars, then it will become a meal replacement, not 1 bar.
Dal chawal or protein bar?
That's all.
Welcome to this episode of The Disruptor. Today I'm speaking to someone who makes quite a few big claims. He claims that his company makes products that come out of a packet but are good for you and promise to tell you the truth. Is that really the case? I'm speaking to the founder and CEO of The Whole Truth, Shashank Mehta. Shashank, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Let me start with that. We've got an array of your brands here, and the first thing that any nutritionist or doctor will tell you that if you want to take care of your health, your cholesterol, your waistline, don't eat anything that comes out of a packet. Yet, you claim that everything that comes out of your packets is good food.
First of all, I agree with all those nutritionists. If you can lead a life where you don't have to resort to packaged food, all packaged food companies should shut down and we should just live that life. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the case in modern day busy city lives that we are spending 14-15 hours out of home and we're always on the move and we have a dependence on packaged food. So while it's good intentioned advice, I don't think it is practical advice, A. And B, where it's coming from is packaged food as an industry has been, food marketeers have been telling us half-truths for ages. And that's why, as an industry, we've lost the trust of nutritionists, of doctors, of well-wishers around us. And that's what we're trying to change with The Whole Truth, that packaged food can be as clean as home food. It can be made with just 4 or 5 ingredients. And you can live your modern busy life without worrying about the junk that you're putting into your body because it's just packaged. So, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about the growth path. So this started in 2019. What has the reception been like? How have you grown? And a lot of our viewers may know your brand, some may not know your brand. Tell us what it's all about.
So the brand's called The Whole Truth. We believe our mission is to rebuild the world's trust in its food, which assumes that the trust has been broken. Who broke the trust? We believe big food broke the trust. How did they break it? They broke it by speaking half-truths for ages. You see no added sugar written on the front of packet, but you turn it around to find maltodextrin or maltitol or some sugar substitute. You see low fat or high protein. This is a high protein cookie written on a packet. You turn it around, you find 2 grams of protein and a star mark saying it's higher than our own previous cookie, which was 1.5 grams of protein. Right? So, and then you have, influencers like the Food Farmer, etc., who come in and expose this, and you feel cheated. You feel that I trusted this brand for 10 years, I gave it to my kid, and now I'm getting to know that it was 70% just refined sugar, right? So we believe these half-truths have broken the trust in food, and that's why if half-truths are the problem, then the whole truth has to be the solution. That's why we're trying to create a 100% clean, 100% honest brand, which just tells you everything upfront because we've got nothing to hide. As you said, we started at the fag end of 2019, so we're barely 5.5 years old. The growth has been beyond, honestly, my wildest imagination. When I was starting, I was told that this is too complex, too involved, too nuanced a concept to sell to consumers, and as it is going to be super expensive because your ingredients are so expensive, no one's going to buy this. This is going to be very niche, is what I was told. But I had a different idea because I was seeing everyone around me, just like the conversation we were having before we got on camera, that everyone around me is talking my language. They are all disturbed by what they're getting in their packets of food. They all want to live healthy. And they all are willing to spend 20, 30, 40% extra to get the right food, but no one's making it for them. So, and that's how it's played out. We've grown at a CAGR of 120% year on year every year for the last 5 years. We are hopefully going to be a company in the next 3-4 years that'll IPO. And more importantly than any of that, the deep consumer love that has fueled this growth is just so heartening, because consumers talk to us and tell us how these products have come and changed their everyday life, where they were stuck in this zone of, I need some solution for my day, for my food, but I want to eat clean. And it seems like these two things can never meet. And once they meet, and in a very, very tasty form, people just get hooked. And yeah, that's been the real reward.
So, these half truths that you're talking about, Shashank, did you encounter them in your first big job where you worked with a huge conglomerate?
Yeah.
You working with Hindustan Unilever, and you can't get bigger than that when you come to packaged food and reach.
Yeah.
Then you leave the job, you work at Fasos, you come back to it, and that's where you saw how the industry works up close in front.
That's absolutely true. So I, by the way, worked in Unilever all my life on personal care. I never worked on food. So food, the journey on food was my own personal journey, where I was a super fat, obese kid, and I lost weight, and I learned all the trickery that was going on, which was, I was thinking that I've replaced my paranthas with cornflakes, and now I'm doing a healthy breakfast, until I turned the packet and found out how much sugar there is in cornflakes. At least my mom's paranthas didn't have sugar in it, right? Or I replaced my cola with a healthy fruit juice, only to find out it has the exact same amount of sugar as my cola, right? This was the personal journey. Professionally, I had worked in personal care. I was selling shampoos and soaps back at Unilever. So I knew the tools of marketing, right? Like even in personal care, when I sell you a shampoo, I say dandruff will go away in 3 weeks, or fairer skin in 4 weeks, with a star mark. It really hit me when I realized that that's what's happening to my food. That they're saying no added sugar, but it has a ton of sugar in it. That's when I realized that, hey, as a marketer, I know the tools of the trade. And as someone who's gone through this obesity cycle, I've felt it deeply personally what it means to be lied to by your food. Why can't I use the tools of the trade now to do good?
So, are you saying that with a product that is more expensive than its peers, where you're saying you use clean ingredients, you're not lying to your consumer, but can you make a profit? Can you turn a profit with a proposition like the whole truth in a country like India, which is price sensitive at the end of the day? And
Yeah.
yes, you are catering to a niche, but then that niche is a niche.
I firmly believe we can. Have we done it yet? No. We are not profitable yet. I think it's a misnomer that expensive things don't sell in this country. We are clear that we are building for the top 2-3% of the country. Again, as I said, you and me and our friends and people in the rooms that we go to. I don't find anyone who's saying, don't give me the best quality product because I'm not going to pay 20, 30, 40% extra for it. They have the disposable income, they have the need. No one is solving for their problems. And it's very, very evident in both our growth journey and in how close to profitability we already are, that actually consumers in this top 2-3%. I'm not talking about, say, 90% of the country which is living in tier 3 or in rural. Their needs are different. I'm not solving for it. I'm very clear, right? In fact, my problem is that all the big companies in this country have been built by solving for rupees 5 and rupee 10 packs, which are built to be distributed in 10 lakh stores and go to rural India. Those products don't work for you and me. We are spending 12 hours a day in an office. We are not doing hard physical labor. We are not burning as many calories as them. Our needs, our nutritional needs are different. Our ability to spend to get that nutritional product is different, but no one has been solving for it. So I strongly believe that this top 2-3% is a large profit pool, but you can't, get away with a substandard product, because again, you and I, we happen to have been born in Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, but we live the lives of a New Yorker, San Francisco, or a London person. Like we consume the same content, we aspire to the same lifestyle, we go out to the same kind of restaurants. But look at our retail shelves; they're stuck in the 1980s, right? That is why when you go to the US, even today, the only place where you find a difference is when you walk into a Whole Foods, you're like, oh shit, what a assortment. Like, I don't get it in my home, right? Like, that's the gap I feel big companies have left that they've not solved for you and me. And I think if we solve for that, we'll make a profit.
On the other hand, that's the same strata of consumers that you're describing. There are so many products
That's true.
vying for their attention in the same space with different brands, homemade, cottage industry, organic. I mean, you slap an organic label on anything and, you know,
That's true.
even more than sugar free,
That's true.
pesticide free, insecticide free. There's someone making that and selling it at some fair.
That's true.
So if I look at a nut butter, I can find at least 20 options of nut butters that make the same claim as you.
Yes.
How do you stand apart?
It's a great question. So, clutter is highest in this part of the market because everyone realizes that this is where the money is, right? So, everyone's trying to do this. And hence, the only way to break clutter, and you're in the media business, so I like this will be like preaching to the choir. The only way to break the clutter is to stand for something and then deliver that day in and day out consistently over the years, right? That's the only way you can create a mark for yourself, right? And that's where 99% brands fail because they've been born as a copy of some other brand, because they've been born out of a trend that, oh, nowadays organic is the in thing, or oh, nowadays vegan is the in thing, or oh, nowadays low fat or high protein is the in thing, let me launch something. You don't stand for something when you create something out of a fad or a trend. Every year we get more love and more word of mouth than the previous 5 years combined, is because we were born out of a mission. We are very clear that our philosophy is 100% clean food, the definition of which is 4 to 5 ingredients which are so clean that you can proudly declare on the front of pack so that consumers never have to turn the packet around to find out what's going in their food. And when you see on the front of pack what's written is this has cashews, almonds, dates, cocoa, and whey protein, and that's it, and nothing else, then consumers are smart. That's the other big distinction that we make, that our consumers are smart. Our consumers aren't dumb. When they read these 5 ingredients, they just know that this is great food. And then doing that day in and day out, day in and day out for the last 6 years and hopefully the next 60 is what will make us.
No, so how are you putting something in a packet without a preservative of some kind,
Yeah.
where it's sitting on a shelf and not going bad? I mean, that's I think a basic question that everyone will have, because
Yeah.
it's a big
And,
claim.
yeah.
And if you can do it, why have others not done it?
Again, great question. So, how to do it is there are two parts to solve, and this is something we've learned over time, right? One is start with ingredients which have inherently very high shelf life. So you will see that 80-90% of our ingredients are dry fruits and cashews, almonds, dates. Like we were talking, like you gift them on one Diwali and they last till the next and the next, right? Because they're inherently high shelf life. The second is we do our own production. This is one of the reasons we do that. That you have to control the production environment. That has to be germ free. The air has to be super clean. The packet cannot be exposed to outside contaminants before getting packed, etc. The lines have to be super clean. So at the start time, if the germ load is very low, then over time also it remains very low. So there is science to using natural ingredients, right? You have to understand food science, but not bring in chemicals to solve your problems, right? And the reason why others can't do it, I think others can do it. What it needs is that maniac, because this is costly. All the stuff that I'm saying is costly, right? You have to do your own production. You have to use the highest quality ingredients. You cannot use cheap fillers. The reason why people use not so good ingredients usually comes from cost, because real ingredients are expensive. Dates,
So what is, how higher is your cost of production in any comparable product? Let's
it'd
pick up a
be
protein bar or a
at
peanut
least
butter.
50% higher than my competitors, and I charge only 20 to 30% higher, which means that my gross margins are lower than my competitors. But hopefully, because I'm building a much stronger brand, I don't need to spend that much more in marketing. That's the business that I'm trying to build.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
You know, we sort of skimmed over this when you spoke about it earlier, but I want to come back to it about how your own personal journey has led to the creation of this idea
Yeah.
and your own struggles with weight loss, etc. And this is an important time to talk about it. We just now have the official weight loss drug in our country.
Oh, yeah.
Obesity is a pandemic. that we are facing as well in the same strata that you're talking about? Everyone's figuring what to eat so that you stay healthy. And was that really the challenges you faced then a big driver? And how does it lead to this?
So absolutely, this in hindsight, it to me it seems like my entire life was leading up to doing this. You know, you can't connect the dots when you're looking forward, but when I look back, it seems like this was my calling. And it started with the personal journey. I was all my childhood, I remember just being a fat kid and all the stereotypes of a fat kid, right? Like school topper, didn't play any sports, was into debating because you don't have to do any physical activity when you debate, right? So uh, spent all of that time with all the stigma of being fat and all the jokes around it, etc. All of that happened. Then when I lost weight, I thought, now it's done. I lost some 40 kgs in 10 months by just going crazy. I just started running, stopped eating, zero science, zero understanding. I just thought, I just understood the calorie equation of, calorie in, calorie out, just cut off all the calories, start running, go mad. So willpower is how I got through it. And lo and behold, in 3 years, 30 kgs came back. And I was like, okay, something's gone wrong, but I can do this again. I can again willpower my way through it. And again, in 9 months, I lost 30 kgs. And I thought, okay, now I'm done. Now I can eat and drink like my thin friends. 3 years again, 30 kgs comes back. I lose it a third time, but the third time I was like, you know what, you've got to now understand this beast because it keeps happening again and again. That's when I got deep into research, started studying about food, started writing a blog called Fitshit, which is how the company was born. So, fun fact is the name of the company is Fitshit Health Solutions.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so that's going to be a problem when we IPO
Yeah.
to, to
Yeah.
have to have that word in our.
Yeah, I'm going to have to bleep it out a fair bit through this interview, but okay.
So uh, that's how when I started writing the blog, I was trying to share what I'd learned about obesity, getting trapped in the cycle, uh, and the, there were many dimensions to it. But the corest of core point, which everyone keeps telling us, is 80% of it is in the kitchen, right? 80% of it
Yeah.
of weight is in your food, and in food, the most simplified rule I could come down to is if you eat real clean ingredients, chances that you will go wrong are very low. Why? Because good ingredients are so nutrient dense that they satiate you and you don't feel like having more and more. In my head, the definition of junk is food that makes you want to have more and more and more. When you eat at home, two rotis and sabji satiates you. You're like, I'm done. That is the definition of good food. And I realized that the more our dependence on packaged food is going up, if someone doesn't solve this for packaged food, this obesity pandemic is not going to go anywhere. And you can see the US exactly went that way. And we don't necessarily have to follow their paths, we can chart our own.
Yeah. Tell me about the funding journey. So, you have this idea, you work on it side by side with, your main job, your gig, and you have this plan. And what I have seen through the series of interviews I've done actually on this show, there's always, everyone has this backstory where there's one person who took a leap of faith on their idea, and it's astonishing across sectors, across founders I've spoken to. There's always that one incident where someone took a punt. Do you have that story?
uh, at Unilever, I had the privilege of having some great bosses to work with, and my boss and my super boss also happened to be the best marketeers that I had ever seen. Right, so when I had this idea, I'd been working on it for a year by the side, and once I had the inklings of a product that this is happening. Uh, in Unilever, we have this concept of a brand on a page that if you can't write down your brand on a page, you don't understand your brand. So I wrote my brand one pager and I took this one bar that I had been making at home and I took both of these to my boss and told him, listen, this is the idea, this is the product, what do you think? Both him and my super boss, both of them told me, listen, we don't want you to leave, but if you leave, we will invest. This is that good. So that was my first, leap of faith, people giving me confidence. These are the best marketeers I know. One of them is Shashwat Sharma, who's now the CEO of Airtel. The other one is Sameer Singh, who is now CMO at Colgate. Right? So really big shots who are telling me that if you do this, we'll invest money. So that was penny drop number one. Then there's this gentleman named Manu Chandra who runs a investment firm called Sauce.vc. He was a reader of my blog. He got to know that I'm leaving to start up. He said, dude, if you're starting up, I've been reading your blog. I think you know this space very well. I'm going to invest. That was the second leap of faith, that someone who doesn't even know me, they just know me through the blog. And he's a VC, he's a professional VC. He's saying that I'll put in the money. And then he was speaking to folks at Matrix, which is a very large fund, which is now called Z47. This is all, I've not even incorporated the company. We've not even started. I'm in my notice period. Unilever has a 3-month notice period. I was serving my notice period, and Manu was speaking to Matrix, and they said, "Oh, this sounds interesting. Let's talk to him." I spoke to them, and within 10 days, they came and I said, "We also want to invest." So I had no clue that people invest money on a paper plan. And here I had like the top marketers, the top VC, one CPG focused VC, all of them saying that we'll put money. So it was all a pleasant shock to me also. And honestly, since then onwards, it's been a series of, the Cosmo conspiring to get us there, which gives me the feeling that we're doing something right, and there is some invisible hand which is,
And also timing. That was also a time when people would invest more easily on a paper plan. Maybe not the same today.
I actually don't know. Yeah, this is like 5.5 years ago, right? Like a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you got the timing right." Sure, you could say that, or you could also recognize the fact that in 4 months after starting, COVID hit. Right, we were a
Yeah.
4-month-old company which was doing its own production. Right, so we were not outsourcing production from day zero. We were making our own food. Now imagine 50 staff comes every day to make food, and now COVID has hit. How do you make your food? Right, it doesn't get made in a machine. You need human beings to do it, but all the guidelines of gloves and people can't even come. Like, forget about all the guidelines, right? So I think timing in hindsight looks good or bad.
Was that the worst time? Was there any point where you thought, even with all of the stars aligning, this wouldn't work out? Or there was never a day where you felt it
Honestly,
was tough?
thankfully, because it happened so early, enthusiasm still was so high that we had this stupid confidence. Like, life hadn't even happened yet, right? Like, 4 months in, you don't lose confidence. You're just still full of energy, etc. I think actually, if it had happened 3-4 years in, it would have been worse in some ways. And there was a lot of anxiety, which I think all of us had during COVID, right? Because it was the unknown. You don't even know if the world was surviving. Forget about your business, right? Like, at that time, you were not thinking about business bachega ki nahi. So no, I don't think there's ever been a time when I felt existential angst whether this will survive or not. Because touchwood, we've had quite a good journey. We've not seen very bad times. But the journey itself is extremely tough, because scaling this fast requires you to just stretch on all fronts day in and day out. So it's very tough. But no time when I felt कि ये तो होएगा ही नहीं, this will not happen.
So, where does your brand go from here, and where does the scale go from here? I'm trying to understand that, is there a dream at some point that this becomes a mass product, or you're happy with the niche and where it is?
So I think first of all we need to redefine this word niche. If I become a 1,000 crore brand in the next 3-4 years, would you still call it a niche? Right? Like, it's a large enough company, and we're on track to getting there. Right? So to answer your question, first of all, we are not building a protein bar company or a protein powder company or a nut butter company. We're building a truth company. Right? The idea is that whichever category of food you feel a trust deficit in, where you feel you're not being sold what you're being told, that there's a gap between the two, we will enter and we will give you 100% clean option. Right? So this insight can be applied to an almost infinite number of food categories. So the ability to go wide is infinite.
So, what's coming next?
The answer is, go back and look at your pantry, and whichever packaged food you currently find in your pantry, from cookies to sauces to stuff that you buy for your kids, whatever you feel, I wish someone just gave me 100% clean thing and I would pay for it, that's coming. Yeah. So I think there is just, I am more excited today with all the resource and the brand and the recognition that we now have behind us. I'm more excited today about what lies ahead than I was at day zero, when I didn't know whether any of this will work out. Right. So I think there's just infinite amounts to do, even for this, top 2-3% of the country. And then who said we have to stay just in this country?
Oh, okay. So then you're looking at going outside as well, but for the same category of of users.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
uh, the number of people who tell us that this quality of product and brand they don't get in the US, in Singapore, in Dubai is just insane. We've not done it because honestly, I don't know how to build the company in India and also build another company in the US at the same time. I don't think I can do it at
How
the
much
same
of the
time.
company are you running day to day, minute to minute?
I am the CEO, so I am still running the company. I have a very strong team. We are blessed with again a team which has been there from day zero. So we have a like my top team has zero attrition. Anyone who's ever come in has only come in. No one's ever left. So very strong team that runs it. But I'm deeply involved. I am the CEO and I'm a hands-on
No, the
CEO.
reason I ask is because in the life cycle of great brands, that's the first hitch is getting started,
Yeah,
and then is scaling when so much is dependent on the vision and passion of one person.
yeah,
And like you said, there are only so many hours in the day, and there are
yeah.
only so many places you can be. Are you working on overcoming that next
Oh,
hitch?
absolutely. Absolutely. I think the reason why companies don't scale is because founders don't scale. And for a founder to scale, one has to learn that my job changes every year. Right? Like now, with a great team, a great brand already set in, my first job is that of a steward uh, who ensures that everyone who comes into the company understands the mission, what we are trying to do, what are our hard guardrails that we'll never go against, the culture. I spend a lot of time on people and culture now, which is not too true 2 years ago when I was still deep into product and operations and supply chain. Right? Like I'm not anymore doing that. Plus, I am the CMO also. I am the brand. I still do a lot of the writing on the brand, the copy, the thought on advertising, on content. That still comes from me. These are two of my core jobs. For everything else, there's a great team which I review and run the ship once a month through a review. But these are the two things that I get my hands dirty with now.
Do you think weight loss drugs are a good idea?
Only for extreme cases. Not if you are 75 and you want to go to 70, I wouldn't advise it. If you are 130 and it's a life threat, you need to lose 30 kgs, then please go for it.
Thank you so much for your time, Shashank. This has been a very interesting conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. This is one of the best chats I've had